Welcome to Laricy Live. You want to know what's happening in the real estate market? Then this show is for you. I'm your host, Matt Laricy. Today, we are discussing the fall market. Every single time we hit a new season, the market changes with that season. This summer we had what I call the summer sizzle. Things kind of slow down a little bit. But I'm going to be dubbing the fall as the fall push. I think we're going to have a little bit of a different market, and so we took some questions down of what people had questions on regarding the fall market, and we're going to kind of shoot these off. So, define the quote-unquote fall market. I believe the fall market pretty much goes from Labor Day till right before Turkey Day, in which we enter the holiday market. But I would say that like these next few months are kind of like when we get into what I would call the fall push, and it's when people get done with the summertime and kind of refocus on work and try to accomplish new tasks before they head into the holiday market. What can we normally expect from the Chicago fall market? We can normally expect people refocusing on their searches. I think a lot of people kind of check out a little bit towards the end of summer, and I thought this summer was different because a lot of people had traveled more. They were going on more weddings. People just wanted to live it up, Lollapalooza, whatever it was. And I think that this market right now, what we're going to be seeing, this fall market is going to be a little bit different because people who had to buy just forgot that they had to buy, and that this fall is going to be a little bit better than we anticipated. Is the fall market a good time to buy? Generally speaking, the fall market's a great time to buy. Usually you have like pretty good inventory, not great, but good inventory, and you have a lot less demand. So you're competing with about half the amount of competition as you would in the springtime. Do you advise clients to buy or sell during the fall market? Guys, we're in sales. Anything can happen at any time. You never know when the right buyer is going to come or the right seller is going to come. I don't see any problem with being a seller in the fall market, and I do not see any problem being a buyer in the fall market as well. Holiday market, I may have a little bit of a different story, but during the fall, I think it's fine. Is it better to wait until winter holidays if you can? I wouldn't say so because you just don't know what's going to come up, and a lot of times during the winter holidays, it kind of feels like Nordstrom Rack. There's some good finds out there, but everything's kind of picked over a little bit. Whether competition levels during the fall market, we just talked about it. You're dealing half the competition, literally half. Do a lot of your sellers start to get worn out by the fall market if the property has been listed all summer? Yes. Sellers get worn out after about 10 days in the market. Any seller of mine that's watching this probably understands that. At the end of the day, a seller goes on the market and they want to sell. And then they hire somebody like myself or anybody to close the deal. And when it doesn't close and it sits there and it's, you got a tough market like we're in now, you get frustrated. No matter who you hire, you hate that person until it sells. I realize that. That's why I drink at least one glass of wine every night. It's a lot of pressure. We do everything we can. But yeah, they're definitely burnt out. Nobody likes selling your property sucks. Anybody that tells you otherwise is an idiot. I'll tell you right now, like you got to sit there and you got to worry about when a showing's going to come in. It's 12 o'clock. You're like, okay, I'm in the clear. I'm not going to have a showing. And then all of a sudden somebody says, hey, I want to be there at 2:30. I'm a cash buyer. And if you don't let me in, they're never going to come back. What do? You got to rush back home and clean up your house. You got kids, you got a job, you got a life, and you got to deal with selling your place. It doesn't take long for you to get worn out. Do you ever advise taking a property off the market for a break during the fall market? No, absolutely not. I think with the fall push that I expect to happen, I think that's going to be the reason to keep your property in the market. What is your definition of a fall push? I've heard you say this a lot. I say a fall push means that these people come back from holiday and they refocus to try to buy a place. And, I think a lot of people are trying to get a leg up on the spring market because a lot of people know that spring's going to be crazy. They want to take advantage of rates. I'm also seeing a lot of our sellers reach out who wanted to sell this summer but just got too busy with life. And now they want to put their place on the market. So the push it's like one last push before the end of the year to try to kind of revamp up this market. What can homeowners who would like to buy during fall do now to prepare? What can homeowners do now that would like to buy during fall? I think they're asking me pretty much how to prepare their house. I mean, you should get ready to have everything get shot. You should make sure that the place is clean, decluttered, and ready to go, and any updates that have to be done. But that's it. I mean, there's really not that much to do. It shouldn't take you more than a few days, but you want to make sure that you're on the market right after Labor Day if you're going to try to get on the market for the fall. Are realtors less busy during the fall? Yeah, absolutely. There's a huge difference. A lot of agents just kind of check out for the fall winter markets. I see. If you look at the numbers, okay, I like to base things off stats, okay? I hate when people tell me like I'm busy, I'm not busy. Let's just look at the pure data. Look at what an average, like the top 20 realtors close. You could go on InfoSparks. You look at Market Watch. If you're a buyer seller out there looking at this, you can have your agent download this for you and look at what's closed October, November, and December. What the realtor stats look like. And if it's December, you're like, well, December's a slow market. No, guys, I'm talking about December closed sales, which means that resulted probably from October closings. Like the top guy might do like 15 to 20 million in December, okay? You know, if you look at, let's say April, for example, there was 4 or 5 of us that were doing 60 million a month, okay? That's a big difference. Think about it. Top person's doing 60 million a month in April, and in December, probably the top guy's going to do 15 million, okay? That's big drop off. So yeah, people are less busy. And then all of a sudden January 5th hits and things go absolutely bonkers. So yeah, things are going to slow down a little bit. I don't say I like it, but it's I can actually check my email for a second during the fall. And it is a little bit nice to almost have like a quote unquote break where you don't feel like you have a gun to your head. But I do think this fall is going to be pretty busy. I think it's going to be different than a normal fall market. And I think that's because a lot of people's work is, people are going back to work, even with this Delta thing going on. And I think that's going to cause people to try to say, hey, I don't know if commuting was probably in my best interest, and I want to get a place downtown. Is it easier to buy, sell, move during the fall because it's not busy season? Yeah, I mean, it's definitely easier to move because there's the movers are more open. I mean, listen, a mover might be doing, 100 moves in a week in April, and they're doing like maybe 10 in, October. So you don't have to worry about booking elevators, anything like that. So yeah, overall it's good. I mean, the weather can be hit or miss, but lately the fall weather has been really good in Chicago. Honestly, the early spring weather has been the worst, like January to February. What about sellers? What should sellers who want to sell during fall do now to prep? We talked about that. Is the fall market typically a buyer's market? Yeah, I would say it's typically a balanced buyer's market. As of right now, today, we're looking at a buyer's market in the high-rise sector, and it's a balanced market in all the other parts of the market, like your smaller buildings like Lincoln Park, Wicker Park, Bucktown, et cetera. It is much more of a different market. So, we had only like 1 month of inventory at the beginning part of the year, in that February to April area in those areas. Now you're at 4 months. So, you're looking at almost 4 times as much inventory. So, buyers have more leverage. I don't think it's like a hardcore buyer's market, but things are definitely like changing a little bit where it's getting better for buyers in most parts of the market. How did COVID impact the fall market last year? Honestly, the fall market last year was pretty busy for the most part, and the reason is because a lot of people, we were locked down pretty much till end of May, beginning of June, and then things kind of started to open up a little bit. So like the September, October, November market was better than it normally would be because people were delayed with buying. But once November hit and we kind of went back to lockdown, things kind of changed a little bit. But that's kind of like holiday market. Do you think the Delta variant will have an impact on the fall market this year? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of people are going to start thinking about going back on pause. That was a big thing. So far, I haven't heard anybody do it. But the biggest thing you have to worry about with the Delta is office delays. From what I've read so far, about 20% of offices have delayed or kind of put more time on the clock to go back to the office. And with that being said, that's going to make less people want to have the city be more attractive. Also, what people don't realize is people always relocate to Chicago for work. So with offices maybe pausing on relocations, that could drastically affect on how much demand comes to the marketplace. So, I'm not going to say it's going to be like a huge impact, but it's definitely going to change the market a little bit. I was thinking without the Delta that we would have one of the strongest falls we've ever seen. But now with Delta, I think we'll just have a mediocre fall. Will Chicago bring back mask mandate have an impact on what you previously expected for the fall? Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of people are now nervous again. They're just people who are naturally nervous, maybe 20-25% of people in life that just think that like, hey, the world's going to end at all times. And Pritzker keeps announcing that there's going to be some serious changes coming if the COVID numbers keep going up. So, I mean, we're in unpredictable times. I mean, some of the stuff of what our city decides to do, I mean, could drastically affect the market. So will we see a change in the high-rise market this fall? Yeah. I think the market's going to continue to pick up in high rises. I think the confidence is slowly starting to come back. I get it. We just said that we don't know if we might go down to lockdown. We got to wear masks. I do think that even though the 25% of people may live a little bit more cautious and scared, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Okay, listen, there's different. I think everybody should have their own opinions and beliefs. Okay, I'm just saying like some people are just going to naturally be a lot more cautious and nervous, so they may sit on the sidelines. But I think 75% of people are like, screw it. I got to wear a mask. It is what it is. We're used to it. It's been 18 months. We're kind of in the gist of being like, mask is on. I think it's just becoming like a normal way of life, and I think people are like, I'm not going to let it affect my life any more than it already has. I think people are over it in the fact that, not saying that they're over COVID and, we don't respect the disease. I'm saying they're over the scared of you have to wear a mask. I think people are just like, whatever, it is what it is. Let's move on. I'm going to continue to live my life as I normally would. I just got to put a freaking mask on wherever I go. That's it. Will do InTime Buyers increase during the fall market? Yeah, because people are less busy. Typically, the international market picks up during the fall, which we're going to talk about in our next podcast. But we typically see a lot of people buying in town and out of state, because people have more time. They don't got much to do. A lot of people's offices are slow in the fall, so they come to Chicago to buy a place. What are you expecting from international buyers this fall? We'll table that to our next podcast. And that gives you guys a reason to tune into the next time. Do home prices drop during the fall? I would say they drop. Drop makes it sound like we're being dramatic. I feel like we're all dramatic these days. Let's just kind of take a step back. Things are going to soften. I like it. Doesn't it sound better too? Soften? Things are going to soften up a little bit. What that means is that let's use some numbers for examples here, guys, right? You put a place on the market in February, okay, at $500,000, and it hits the market day one, and it gets bid up to $520 because there's no inventory and people go crazy. What happens in the fall is that these people, the seller's like, hey, my neighbor sold at $520, okay, and my place is better than John's place, and they got $520, so I want to list at $550. And they're like, well, listen, John, or sir, John's place that sold at $520 sold at a phenomenal time of the year when there was no inventory in the market and somebody actually overpaid for that property. So if we're asking $550 when people already overpaid for $520, we might be asking, $40,000 more than market. But what happens, we see a lot of times in the fall market is people are like, nope, I'm better. So they go on the market at $550. Okay, remember, last comp was $520, and people literally overpaid for that. So you'll see this happen a lot in the fall. Somebody goes out on $550, then they drop to $530, then they drop to $520, then they drop to $500, and then they sell at $490. And the consumer looking in is like, wow, prices are really dropping. And I'm like, well, no, prices didn't drop. If that guy would have came on the market at $500 originally, he probably would have sold at $500, $505. But instead, he did a death by 1,000 cuts. And the consumer's like, well, look, something sold at $520, and now this one sold at $590, prices have come down. And it's like, well, that one that sold at $520 is not really a comp because they overpaid for it. And the comps prior to that one, if we just pluck that one out of it, said it's worth around $500. So, the seller sold at $490. So it's not that price is coming down. It's that the seller is pretty much, his own worst enemy, screwed himself over, and he got $10,000 less than market because he did the wrong thing. That's what I see happen a lot in the fall. I see sellers kind of make mistakes. I can't even tell you because I've been on probably 15 listing appointments last week, and I've heard at least 90% of the sellers say this: I don't have to sell. I don't have to sell. And for realtor guys, it's the worst thing you ever want to hear. I don't have to sell, because what I know is that like they're going to try to do some crazy price that makes no sense, and then I'll end up having it for 3 months. I'll get fired because they'll blame me. Because no, listen, we do not like to ever admit that we make mistakes. That is like against our culture these days. We can never take accountability. So I'm gonna deflect my bad decision onto my agent. I'm gonna fire my agent, and then I'm gonna hire the next guy in the spring at a realistic price, because now I feel like I actually do have to sell, and that person's gonna sell it. Honestly, I probably turn down half the listings I go on at this time of year. And I know this is a tangent about like prices dropping, but it's a perception issue. So again, when I talked earlier, it's about the data. Look at the closed sales and look at where the prices go compared to the closed sales. They soften up. Sometimes I see them drop by like 1% to 2%. Sometimes, and in the beginning of the year, they're maybe overinflated by 5%. So at the end of the year, it's still up 3%. Okay. But really, you're going to start seeing a lot of price changes happen in the fall market due to sellers having unrealistic expectations on where the market is at. When you're selling during the fall market, price is everything. You do not have that much time. It's not like February where you could test the market and you have like 5 months of a really strong market. When you listen in the fall, you should price it to move, because it's like you're coming down from a plane and landing on a runway, and that airstrip is very short, because you're going to hit a certain point where it's holiday season and it's a jolt, and you're going to run out of space and you're going to fall off that runway. Because I'll tell you right now, once you hit holiday season, that's when you're in a different market when it comes to prices. So for now, you should be pricing it to move it in the fall market. What do you expect? And you know what? One other thing to do with that, especially if you're thinking about putting your property on the market in the fall, you got to price it correctly, because I see, a lot of sellers that tell me like I don't have to sell. What happens is they pull it during holiday season, they go back up in the spring, and then the buyer's like, well, what happened to that property in the fall? Like, what was wrong with it? Because I saw it came on and it didn't sell. And then a lot of people think that there's something being hidden from them, and nobody wants anything being hidden from them, so they just pass on the property. Does weather impact the housing market at all? Yeah. If there's 15 feet of snow outside, people aren't going. If it's that polar vortex, people are going to leave their house. If it's rain and light snow, it doesn't affect it at all. Extreme weather conditions, yes. Otherwise, no. Are most fall buyers shopping with no deadlines because school has already started? I mean, in reality, the markets we work, we're not really tied to schools that much. Our single-family homes that we sell are a little bit more school-tied. But generally speaking, in the city, a lot of people, if they are shopping with kids, don't really care, because they're going to private school, and it doesn't really matter where they go, because they're not tied to like a certain like boundary, and they're not like pulling their kids out of school. But also, you get a lot of people who are empty nesters, international buyers, first-time buyers getting relocated, etc. So we're not tied to like the suburbs' normal real estate cycle. I mean, honestly, me personally, every single year, I have more contracts, I have more places going under contract personally in September, October than July and August. Every single year in my entire career. And it's because there's a lot of the other markets that aren't really active in the summer, like explode for what I dub the fall push. How is selling during the fall market different than other seasons? It's a little bit trickier. You feel a lot more pressure as a seller, because like you're super scared, because you want it. A lot of people are like, I want this sold and closed by the end of the year, or I want this sold and closed by holiday season. And you got to remember, everybody's like, well, I got plenty of time, right? It's September 1st. I got plenty of time. It's like, well, if you really think about it, you got 30 days to close on a short end. So that puts me at October 1st, which means I really have October, November, December. So like 3 months to sell the place, 90 days. As of right now, average market time is hovering around 90 to 95 days. So I essentially have to get that bad boy sold ASAP to be able to meet that deadline. And it can be a lot of pressure. So for sellers, I feel like a lot of sellers are under a lot more pressure in the fall market than they are in the spring market. Are you still seeing an increase in clients going back to work, or is the Delta variant throwing that off? I am seeing people go back to work. I am seeing a lot of clients say that they're delayed. I have not seen as many clients get delayed as I would have thought due to Delta, but it is a trend we're watching. I mean, depending on when you watch this, we're still in the beginning phases of this whole Delta mask mandate. How much this is going to change, it's just too tough to say. How does the Laricy team use fall to prepare for winter and next year markets? I mean, in all honesty, we try to test new systems. We try out a lot of stuff in the fall and winter because we're not as busy as we are in the spring. I anticipate 2022 to be one of the craziest years for big cities. This is, towards the end of August when this comes out. So let's clip this so we could see how this happens in January if my prediction is correct. But so what I do, knowing that I know how busy it is, I mean, right now I'm trying to interview more agents because I think I'm going to need one more agent for the spring. Our assistants and stuff like that are preparing to be more efficient during the springtime, and I'm going to continue to perfect this, the market now, so when the spring season comes, I can absolutely crush and take advantage of it. I'm also trying to perfect how we could be better in the fall market by changing our systems a little bit. Listen, we're crushing it. We're going to have we're going to have the best year in history. In fact, we might do a 40% growth year to date. But that doesn't mean I'm going to be content with how we performed in the past. I'm constantly asking clients, what can we do to be better? I'm okay. I'm a big boy. I could take constructive criticism. I can understand if you didn't like us. My feelings won't be hurt. Obviously, I'd be upset because I'm a perfectionist. I want to be the best. But I do take it to heart of saying, like, I want to really perfect my craft and deliver the best product. And I can't always say I know everything. You can't have your head in the sand like that. You can't always think, like, I'm always right. Everything I'm doing is perfect. You're going to make mistakes. And I'm a business owner. I'm going to make mistakes. So I always ask clients, what can I do to change the better services for you, to serve you in the future? And a lot of people tell me some stuff that we do. And sure, it kind of sucks. It almost feels like you get punched in the gut when you hear it, because you never want to have anybody have a sour taste in their mouth. But I'm really trying every single day to try out new stuff to be a better individual for my clients to deliver the best product. And in the fall, we try to test out these systems of what clients give us feedback on. What advice do you give your agents for the fall market? Get prepared. I told everybody July and August were going to be slower, but I think September, October are going to be nuts. And we're already seeing it firsthand that our showings are starting to creep back up again. What's going to happen to inventory levels during the fall market? I think they're going to bump up a little bit. I think we're already kind of seeing that. I actually didn't see that much listings hit in August at all. I thought there would have been more activity in August from listings, but now, personally, I'm personally going a lot more listing appointments. I've been on more listing appointments in the last 9 to 10 days than I have been in the entire month of August. So it's people who are trying to get ready, and it's kind of playing out as we thought it would, is that in the fact that we thought people were going to be really busy, and when I go on these listing appointments, I ask, I'm like, hey, why are you listening in the fall, and why didn't you listen in July and August? You know what they said to me? You know what? I wanted to listen in July and August, but I couldn't find the time. I was traveling all the time. I had a lot of events going on. I felt like I had a wedding every weekend. I felt like I had X every weekend. And now I'm just coming down to air to be able to kind of, breathe and kind of get my place on the market. So I think we're going to see a nice fall push of inventory. What's going to happen with market time? It'll go up. Market time always goes up in the fall. And guess what, guys? Even with more demand and more inventory, market time is going to go up. I think we're going to have probably an average about 100 days on the market for high rises and probably about like 90-ish days for smaller buildings. Do realtors stop working as much toward the end of the year? 100%. I would say that at least half the realtors are checked out during holiday season for sure. I can never get a hold of anybody. And you look at people's news feeds and stuff like that, they're on vacation all the time. It's a slower time of year, so I can't hate on people. If you made enough money and you don't care and you're not motivated by, numbers, and you're just like, screw it, I want to live my life. I mean, listen, good for them. Everybody's got a different prerogative in life. There's no right or wrong answer. Just because I'm a weirdo obsessive with work doesn't mean that everybody else has to feel the way I do, although I think you should. You have your own prerogative who you want to be. But yeah, a lot of realtors take the foot off the gas. And I'll tell you, that's a direct result why January and February are slower for a lot of agents. And that's why January and February for the top 10 or 15 agents is crazy, because you put all the work in November, December, next thing you know, you see all the success for January and February. And you know what? That brings me to a point. One of the reasons why I have such a busy September and October, this is 100% true story. I crush it, I would say, in October closings or October going under contract, because I cannot tell you how many people reach out to me to buy or sell. And they say, hey, I'm not going to be ready towards September till November of this year. And it's January, February. And I'm telling you right now, guys, it's hard to describe how busy we are in January, February. It's like I could tell you how busy it is, but I don't think you would believe me, because it's just like I can't even literally breathe. I'm getting 4,000 to 5,000 emails a day. I can't even keep up with the business that's coming in. And you get somebody, let's imagine you've been on appointments for 15 hours straight, you're on 2 hours of sleep, and you get somebody who's like, hey, can I have a half hour of your time to talk about me buying in October? And you're thinking to yourself, shit, I haven't even taken a sip of water today, I can't breathe, and now I got somebody who wants to talk to me about buying in October. And the average agent's like, screw it, I'm going to pass on this, I'm too busy. I take the call, and then I email that person every single week from January till October. And then guess what? Next thing you know, it's September, and they want to start looking, and next thing you know, we're under contract in October. Literally, I probably got 50 people in October I'll go under contract with because of that. Just people I follow up with. It's a big reason why you get successful at the back half of the year. And if you're a buyer out there looking in the beginning part of the year, I don't think it's bad, because this way, by the end of the year, you know exactly where the market's at. You're able to watch and kind of calculate exactly what you wanted. Okay, do I have any trips planned for the fall? Nope. Took 2 vacations this summer. I've always took one, but I didn't take a spring vacation. I normally take one in the spring. I normally take one in the summer, and I take one for New Year's. This year I didn't take one in the spring, so I took 2 in the summer. I will not take one in the fall. My next day off will be Turkey Day, and then I will take off Christmas Day, and then 26th to the 1st, I will be going to Paris, depending on whether or not we're going to be allowed to go or not. What does the rental market look like during the fall? Rental market's going to be crazy. Right now, the rental market's at an all-time high, and I think a lot of people are going back to work, so the rental market's going to be better than we anticipate it to be. What advice do you have for clients and agents heading into the rest of the year? I think you're going to see a very strong September till Turkey Day, and I think that you can expect to put your foot on the gas and you're going to reap the benefits. If you're a buyer out there, you should try to take advantage of the less demand now, because I'm telling you right now, the spring market's going to be crazy. And if you're a seller out there, try to take advantage of this little bit of a fall push that's going to happen. That's the fall, guys. If you have any questions more about the fall market, what we can anticipate on it, leave a comment. If you guys have any topics you want us to cover, any terminology you want us to know more about, we're happy to talk about anything you want. We're always open to ideas. Most of the topics we get come from our clients or other agents or the agents in the team, and that's how we kind of come up with these different types of markets. So subscribe to our YouTube page, hit the bell so you're the first one to be notified, and thanks for listening to Laricy Live. Make sure to tune into our next episode and subscribe to our podcast. Thanks for listening to Laricy Live.